Welcome everyone for the second test of today. So we are together for about 2 hours of workshop to build a serverless API with Nest.js. Just want to say one thing about the agenda is that the conference system only allows us to do 2 hours in a row. So in case we're a bit longer, we will prepare another link so you can follow us and continue the workshop with us after the 2 hours. So join the Slack. So we have a Slack group. It's aka.ns/nitro-ws-slack. We will also put the link in the chat box so you don't have to remember it. And on this Slack group, we're going to be there. So I'm with Figs, and we are developers, so web developers and open source experts. So we are here to help you to create this application. Then 3 colleagues and Glaucia, Johan, and Olivier. I just want to go quite fast because time is running out, and I'm excited for us to start working together. Then just a few words about Azure. So we're going to use Azure for the workshop. And for that, we're going to share you some Azure passes because it's going to cost like a few cents, maybe 2 or 3 cents for the whole workshop to run, but we don't want you to have to pay. So if you want to use the Azure Pass, just send us a little message on the Slack and we'll get back to you with the Azure Pass. And we are also there to in a few minutes in the Slack group. But before that, I'm going to give the mic to Johan, who's going to start with the introduction and the explanation of Nest.js and Nitro.
Okay, thank you, Maud. And it's better if you have sound this time. So I will start telling some bits about Node.js, sorry. So Node.js, if you've already heard about Node.js, it's a platform that has now more than 10 years of existence. It was created in 2009, and it's now used by a lot of big companies like Netflix, PayPal, LinkedIn, Microsoft, and so on. And in that 10 years, a lot of libraries have been created to build APIs and applications using Node.js. If you've already used Node.js before, you surely have heard a bit about Express, which is one of the most famous libraries to build APIs. The issues with all these APIs is that on how you should build and structure your application. It's basically like, you have this knife, and now I will drop you in the jungle in the middle of nowhere and telling you just survive with that. It may work if you're used to that kind of thing, but in my case, if I'm dropped in a jungle with just a knife, I will probably not be making it. So a few other frameworks have been built with an higher level, with a lot of more different take on how you should build API with this. But I've been used a few of these before, especially Loopback, Feathers, and Meteor. There's always something that's not working that well. Either the framework is too light, there's not that feature I absolutely need to my application, or I need to bring a lot of other dependencies just to build my simple feature I needed. Or just the opposite. The framework comes with a lot of bloats, and it's like heavyweight and doing a lot of more from what I expected initially. Or it's not flexible at all. You just can't go out of the rails of the framework. You just can't do anything that wasn't planned for in the framework. If you have a special case, basically you're out and you have to use anything else. In the JavaScript community, new frameworks coming, but If you're a backend developer, you also know that if you try to suggest a new technology to your team, usually it's not taken well, and backend developers prefer to rely on the proven technology that has been. So today we will be talking a bit about Nest.js. So why Nest.js and why you should consider it for making your next API? First, Nest.js was one of the first Node.js framework built from the ground up with TypeScript in mind. It's not just added types that was maybe think just like an afterthought. It was really built from TypeScript just right from the beginning. So it's really nice if you already used, and if not, you really should try using TypeScript because it really helps you building a reliable application. It's also not entirely new. Under the hood, it's driven by either Express or Fastify. So you can choose whether you want the compatibility of the large ecosystem of libraries that exist around Express.js, or if you need the maximum performance you can have by using Fastify. It's also, to my knowledge, the only Node.js framework that follows the solid object-oriented principle. So that's really a good thing to help you structure well your application. It comes also with strong opinion on how you should structure and build your application. So that's a really big help if you're a new team in the Node.js ecosystem. And it also comes with first-class CLI that really helps you going quicker and getting started with your API really fast. As I say, it's also not entirely new because lots of parts that are in Nest.js framework comes from Angular, like TypeScript, obviously, but also all the annotation system that you will see in the next slides. The dependency injection system also comes directly from Angular, and a lot of the tooling also come from Angular, like the CLI. Basically, they reused a lot of things that have already been proven to work well within the Angular community and use it for Nest.js. If I try to resume quickly what Nest.js is about, for me, Nest.js is basically Express or Fastify with an added layer of abstraction structure for you and a lot of best practice already built in the framework in a single word architecture already made. A lot of tooling already built in the framework, like the CLI, but also a lot of helper library, like for authentication and a lot of useful things. In the last year, Nest.js was also the fastest growing Node.js framework for the whole year on GitHub. It has nowadays a huge community. So basically, if you get stuck, you can just ask for help on Stack Overflow or any other community channel. And I'm sure you can already find someone to help you if you get an issue. So it basically gets a lot of traction and a lot of support from the open source community. So now let's dive in and see a bit in practice what is Nest.js about. So first, you have the controllers. The controllers are the code that will respond to a client-side HTTP request. It will be basically the class that will construct the answer to any HTTP call that will be made on your API. You can generate a controller class using the CLI with the nest generate command. And it can help you basically lay all the code for it very quickly. A controller is a class that goes like that. You get first a TypeScript annotation with the @controller. You can specify here also the route to get to your API. In that case, it will be /books. And then you will define all the methods for your API. You can choose any HTTP verb to respond to using the corresponding annotation. You can use the get, the post, the put, the delete, and all the other REST HTTP verb you might expect. You can also define subroute if you want. For example, in that case, using the colon ID annotation, I can choose to get a parameter from the root URL, in that case, the ID. Using the @param annotation in my function, I can get the ID from the books I might want to get directly from the URL. You can also, in the case of a post request, you can also access the body of the request, the object that was sent to your API using the @body annotation, and you will get the object corresponding to the request. And it will be already deserialized for you. If the object was in JSON, you will already get the JavaScript object in there. You can also access the query parameters from the URL using the @query annotation. Like in that case, I can access the name parameter if I want to make a search. And by default, I can also say that Nest.js will construct the response for your API automatically for you. The framework will set the HTTP code response based on the HTTP verb you used with some good defaults. But if you want, you can override that using the HTTP code annotation if you want to change the status code. And you can just answer with whatever response you want. For example, it can be a string like in that method. It can also be an array and an object. And the response will automatically be serialized for you to JSON. But if you want, you can also access under the hood to express or fastify raw objects to build yourself the response to the API call. You can get the request object, the response object, and the next handler for your API using the corresponding annotation. Also, if you have a special need that can be addressed using one of the framework features that are already built in. So you also have access to the framework, to the library that is under the hood of Nest.js. In a second time, you can have providers. Providers are basically services that you can inject anywhere in your application. So if you already done some Angular application before, it might seem very familiar to you. Basically, you create a class, you use the @injectable annotation just to tell you that, okay, this class, I want to make it available to the dependency injection system. And then wherever you want to use this service, for example, in my books controller, you can inject it using the controller, and basically just making the parameter in the controller and setting the correct type for it will allow the dependency injection system to work, and you will get the instance of your service right there. To make it work, you have to define it in a module. Modules, like always, are made to separate your application in separate feature. For example, you can have users, orders, or chat for all the different features in your application, and it will also scope the dependency injections for all of these modules. So in a module, for example, in that case, it's the book module. You declare the controller for this module. So in my case, the books controller, you declare all the providers you want to make available in the dependency injection system. So in that case, the book service. And you can also, if you want, it's not mandatory, you can also export some providers if you want to make it also available to other modules, if that's needed. Otherwise, you can scope it to so they can only be accessible from this module. After that, the modules must be injected in your application module. The application module is the root module that will bootstrap your application. So if I want all the controllers and the things that I define in the books module to be available in my application, I must import it from the app module so it can be made available. If you have multiple modules, you can import multiple modules in there. So you can quickly build modular application, but you must not forget to also import the modules in the app module of your application. You also have pipes. Again, if you're familiar with Angular, you might already get an idea of what's a pipe. A pipe can be used for two typical use cases. The first one is to transform data that comes from the client side of your application, the web browser, before it gets to your API handler, so your function in your controller. It can also be used also to validate the data, which is something really important if you're building an API. So a pipe is basically a function that is injectable, that implements the pipe transform interface, where you get one value that can be of any type. It will depend on what you expect from the initial value. You can get metadata. I will go back on that later. And basically, you do anything you want on the value you get. You can transform it into a different value, or you can perform some checks if you want to do some validation in that place. You can use pipe either in a controller method using the @usePipe annotation and then give the pipe you want. You can also use pipe in the parameters of any controller method. Like, for example, in the @body annotation, I can validate the body that was sent to this post method using my specific validation pipe to make sure there's everything that I expect in the book object. You can also define global pipes. During the bootstrap of your application, you can use the use global pipe method to set pipes that will be used into every method of all your application controllers. There's a lot more to be covered in Nest.js because there's facilities to help you build microservices, to help you build GraphQL APIs, to use WebSockets, to have Swagger documentation, and so on. There's a lot. That's a lot more than what I can cover in this short introduction. But now I can move on to one thing you will be using in this workshop is serverless. So if you're not familiar with serverless, serverless is basically a cloud services that allows you to build application without having to manage anything, especially servers. In our case, we will be using Azure Function as the serverless platform, but we'll also be using a serverless database and some other services. The big advantage of using serverless services is that they scale for you. You don't need to pre-provision them and pay for something that might not be used. Basically, they scale with your usage automatically. So you only pay for what's really used. It can be really advantageous if you're a startup, for example, and there's no wasted resource. So if you're also careful about ecology, that's something great to have in there. At Microsoft, we built a few tools because we love open source. We built a few tools around the Nest.js framework, and we called all these tools behind the Nitro name. You might find this website. That's why we call this workshop Nitro, because we will be using a few libraries that are built around Nest.js to help build Nest.js applications and deploy them on Azure's serverless platform. So you will see how easy it will go once you get started with the workshop. So now it's time to go to this URL. Basically, just go to your browser and open this website. You will get all the instructions for these workshops, so you can follow them at your own pace. And if you want, you can also just see my colleague Glaucia that will now take the hand and walk through all this workshop during a live coding. So if you have any question, you can also always ask on Slack or on the chat if you want. So now, Glaucia, it will be your time.
Nice. Should I share my screen right now? Right?
Yes, I will stop sharing mine and you can share yours.
Okay. Okay, Nice. Can you see my screen right now, everyone? Nice. So the first thing that we need to do is set up our environment here. So let's see here, something here, just a second. Oh, nice. So I just already installed in my local machine Node.js, npm, and AZURE. So to see if everything is done, we should include this command to see the version. So node-v. I'm using in my local machine the 12 version from Node. If you are using the version 13, sorry, someone's sending a lot of messages right now. I can see. So npm-v, use the version 6, and az-version, I'm using the updated version for Azure CLI. So we need to install these 3 things right now, and then we need to install globally the Nest.js globally. So I'm using the 2.7.0. So yes, so let's get started. Let's create a folder called thumbpads. Inside in this folder, let's create our Nest.js. So to use Nest.js globally, you need to install already your Node.js in your local machine. And to use Node.js, so you need to use this command to install globally the Nest.js. So I already installed in my machine already. So you need to use this command here. Nice. So to create a new Nest.js project, we need to use this command, next new, the name from the, the project. In this case, I use thumbpads-server because we take care right now from the backend side. So you can choose between the npm or yarn. In this case, you choose the npm. npm is a node package manager responsible to use a lot of packages and libraries inside the Node.js applications. Depending on your local machine, can take a while to install everything inside your local machine. So any doubts from here? Nothing? Because I'm used to do live coding. I'm used to during this time I'm used to see the chat to see some doubts. So okay.
There's no question in the chat, Glaucia. I'm looking at it.
Nice. Good. If you follow me from the web, you can see the workshop from the doc that Johan created. So I'm in the first step, which is Bootstrap project. So if you want to share this link, I'm here. You're welcome. So let's see here. Can take a little while because I have so many tab chromes open here in my machine, so consume a lot of memory. Just let me Okay, nice. Okay, nice. To test this application, we need, let me see here, what do we have here? Okay, so we have to go to the necessarily folder created. So cd funpads-server and then npm start, just to test if everything is okay. We'll open an endpoint, a localhost 3000. I don't know if we will open automatically a web browser. Probably I have to open a web browser. Let's see. Okay, so yes. So let's open local. And that's it. We have the famous phrase here, hello world. So it's happening. So to finish this application, we have to use the command Control-C. Yes. So let's open the second. I think it's better to use in the main folder. Let's open the VS Code. So we're starting to code right now. I really enjoy to use VS Code because, you know, I can do everything inside of from here. So let's try to understand what is happening here. So we have the main folder called funpads, and inside this funpads we have the server side, the backend. So inside this, the backend side, we have a lot of folders. We have this node modules, the source test. So inside the source, that is all the magic is happening. So we have to. We will concentrate inside this folder, you know. So let's starting to see a lot of things from here. So for now, let's create our first endpoints right now. So in this case, we have to return to our commander here. So I don't know if this screen is good because I'm using a kind of transparency here. I don't know if it's good to see for everyone here, but if it's not good, just tell me, please. So to create a new endpoint, we need to use a Nest.js command from. So in this case, let's use the command nest generate controller because Nest.js uses the solid principles. So in this case, we can separate every code inside of the project. So every application, when use the solid concept, we try to use the logic thing inside the controller folder. So in this case, let's create inside the Nest generate controller. So in this case, we will generate inside these folder stories. So Nest.js will generate a lot of files to start to create our logic endpoint. So let's click on enter button here. Okay, let's see what it created for us. Inside the source, let me see. Oh, sure. I think that I did something wrong here. Just a second. Yeah. Sorry. That's why we should create inside. Yes, server. So yes, I have to use again these comments again. I have to use these comments inside in the funpads server because all the magic is happening inside in this folder. So let's see what it will create for us here. So inside the source folder, we have a new folder. This folder is called stories. So inside the stories, we have two TypeScript files. So we have stories controller, TS. So everything about the logic will happen here. And the stories controller spec TS, this is a file to deal about tasks. So in this workshop, we will focus just only in the stories.controller.ts. So let's start to create something interesting things here. So just a second. If I'm going too fast, please warn me, please, because sometimes I'm slowly, sometimes I'm really fast, because when I'm starting to see everything, I'm kind of, you know, very fast. I started to do the things very fast. So I don't know if I don't know what is happening here. Let me see. Okay, so let's use const. Fun facts. So we started to include some good things here, so you can copy and paste from the so let's do this. Right, okay. So right now I'm in this tab in the workshop. So we are including some fun facts here about some cats. So cats have supersonic hearing. A cat uses its whiskers for measuring distance. The whiskers of cat are capable, blah, blah, blah. So we have a lot of, you know, array that include a lot of fun facts. So let me see here. This kind of interesting, because we okay, because from now we have to include just only this information here, probably. No. To have some linked issues here, just to see something here. Probably should have return from this, because we are using the controller folder, the controller file, but we don't starting to do anything from here. So that's why it's warning us about this red line here. So let's add a new method inside in the existing starting controller class. So in this case, so we are going to do this. So let's include in here controller, the name of the folder, stories. Let's export, because we starting. Why we export things inside of the JavaScript? Because probably we use this file in another files. So that's why we need to use the export. So export class stories controller. So the first endpoint will be a get. So get random. As all the array is a string. So return facts will be a random thing. So we don't make these fun facts we're using. So that's why we're using the random method. Property, sorry. So fun facts, length, nice. Sorry, I'm something. Yep. See something here. That random is the endpoint. So we are going to create the function get random story. Now this method will return a string. Now return now is correct. Everyone here can understand what's happening here. Any doubts in this block code here from 19 to 24? So we are creating a class, call it storage controller. And this controller is about a get endpoint. So inside in this get endpoint, we have a function or method called get random story. This get random story return a string, a collection of strings. So that's why we are using a method to render this all informations above, below, above. So that's why we're using these informations here. Okay, just to understand what's going on here. Nice. So let's import. We're importing. This is a S-linked. Cannot read file. Yes, linked configuration. Johan, are you here?
Yes, Glaucia.
I don't know why this parsing error is happening here. Probably maybe this is a ES-linked error, maybe.
I think if I remember well, there was maybe some lint issues, but it should not affect the build of the application.
Okay, nice. Okay. So now let's add a global API prefix. So to do this, we have to come back to the main file, actually the source file. So source folder, sorry. So let's come back to the source folder here, the main TS. For those who already know Node.js, all the files starting with the save.js or main.js or even main.ts or server.ts, these kind of files, they are the main file to execute, is the main file to execute the whole application in the in the Node.js or even in the Nest.js or the framework. This is a good name to use the main file to execute the main project. This is the main file to this kind of files, the name files, is responsible to execute the whole application. So everything's happening here, So let's add a global API prefix. So in this case, so let's Let me see here. Okay, nice. So inside this async function bootstrap, we have a const app await Nest factory, create app module. So you will create an app module. But in the line 6, let's include here app set global prefix API. If you want to understand what is happening on the hood, I really enjoy to talk with my live codings to do this kind of things, because this is a different way to study, not just only copy paste the code, but try to understand what is happening in the owner hood. So I really enjoy to do this. For example, this, let me see here, this method belongs to the Nest.js library. So if I want to understand the definition, you can using the VS Code, click on the right button here in the mouse and go to definition. You can see all the definitions here inside this method. For example, the set global prefix is waiting for our string. So these have our parents as a WebSocket adapter or returns a void. So if you want to understand everything is happening inside under the hood in the code, you can use this kind of information inside the VS Code. I really enjoy to see the definitions of everything, so you can use it the correct way and try to understand everything is happening inside the code. So right now we already added the global API prefix. So what is happening here? What's going on here? Why I'm including this line 6 here? Because in this case, what will happen with our endpoint right now? So the Nest.js endpoint is localhost 3000. So right now will be API /stories/random. I'm talking to this endpoint that now after the 3000 part, I'll use the API. This is a good practice to do in every endpoint you create, even in Node.js applications. So I really enjoy to use this kind of endpoint because this is a good practice, especially for those who really enjoy to use Node.js applications. So let's run again the server to see what is happening here. So to run, we have to looking for this file here, the package JSON, actually this one. So now we can test everything that we done here, from here. So we can start. Any questions from here? Any questions? No? Okay. Let me see here in Slack. No? Okay, nice. So is running successfully. So let me open again localhost 3000. See that when you include the localhost 3000, he will not have found. So we have to include all the endpoints right from now because we create our first endpoint. So is API stories. If I refreshing again, will appear for me a different phrase for me here. So a agile can move sideways. So if refreshing again, a health cat has a temperature between 3.8 and 3.9 degrees Celsius. And you know, it's happening randomly. So that's why we're using that method or function. So it's fine. It's happening. Let's go back to the application. And now we are going to deploy this application. So for this, we are now in the step 2. I'm sharing again the screen, the link here. I will give some 1 or 2 minutes to follow me from the step 2. From now it was good. It was very fast and very piece of cake. So from now, the step 2 is interesting because we are starting to use a serverless. Serverless is a buzzword. Everyone right now wants to use serverless everything, but we have to take care of because the serverless architecture is not a silver bullet. So because we have costs, you can let your application very expensive. So in some functions and applications, depends in the part of the application, if you have some huge issues in these applications, so you can use a little piece of the code of this application, input in the cloud using the serverless architecture. So not everything have to include the serverless architecture because it can be very expensive. But especially in the side in the application, you have a lot of issues. For example, the login, the checkout, or even the password, because demand a lot of money. For example, many requests and response, so you can lose a lot of money. So in this case, you can use this kind of part of the code block in the cloud. Don't think to use the serverless architecture in the whole application because it can be very expensive. So try to understand this kind of concept because not everything is I have to make a migration from my all my functions. I have to include all my functions in the serverless architecture. Be careful because this kind of migration can be very expensive for all of you. Even because all the providers, even Azure, all the computations, the computations companies, the service providers, they have the same concept, the pay as you go. So you have to be careful to use a lot of functions in your application using serverless architecture. So let's go to the step 2. Let's deploy the application. So in this case, we are going to use the Azure functions. If you never heard before about Azure functions, Azure functions is a service that work with the serverless, belong to the Azure, is an Azure service to create functions to include in the cloud. So we use the concept of FAS, so functions as services. So to do this, we need to use, actually we have to, I think not in this step, but it's very important to install the Azure. I don't know if we have here, but it's very important to install the Azure Functions Core tools in your local machine. But in this case, let's use Nest add Next.js/Azure func HTTP. This is the command to starting to use serverless concept inside our application, but using the Azure Function Services from the Azure. So let's click on the button Enter here. Enable to install library Nest.js/Azure function. We have to install first the package, because this is a package. So let me see something here. We assign them in the ls. We have the packet.json. So in this case, we have to do this npm e --save Nest.js Azure func latest. So we have to install inside in the packet.json this package. So let's do this first. Let me try again. Way here. Let me see what's going on here in the package.json. We don't have here. This is a package, right? So let me see in the copy here. It's just only set for me that I need to use this command here. I don't know what is happening here. Maybe I type the wrong way, probably. Let's see what will happen right now. If you want to see a little bit more about this package, I'm sharing the link here so you can see everything about this open source project. So let's wait a little bit more. Yes. So good. You created a lot of Asian functions files for us. Let's see what's happening here. Let me close this. Wow, did not create a. This is bad. Okay. Johan, are you there?
Yes, I'm still there with you.
Should I use that the Azure functions command inside in the FunPad server or outside?
To do what exactly?
I mean, for example, I'm inside in the FunPad server, so I execute this command inside this folder. Is correct?
Yes.
Okay. Seriously, because I thought he could create a folder, you know, but he created a lot of, you know, okay.
Yeah, if you have the main folder, that's okay.
Interesting.
It will create an alternative entry point for the application.
Yeah, because in the, you know, for example, in the, let me show you for everyone here. For example, yeah. To create a new, you know, new folder, I thought he will create a new folder, you know, so it's different. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay, I got it. So we have here a common files from Azure functions. We have a function.json, so we can make a lot of things inside this folder. In index.ts, we have a TS folder. This is where the magic is happening. So this is a very important information. For example, if I want to run this folder, the main folder, you started to use Azure Functions inside our application, we have to install the Azure Functions core tools. So to install, so if you are in the step 2 in the workshop right now, we have to click on this link in the Azure Functions core tools. Please click on there, or you can share here if you want to, because in my version's Portuguese. So to install the Azure Functions core tools, actually I'm using the version 2, but you can use the version 3 as well. So to install the Azure Functions core tools, you have to use this command here, the npm install -t azure functions core tools. Already installed here in my machine. So right now, let's use the command to able to see if our Azure Functions is our application. Npm run start Azure. To use this command, you have to install first the Azure Functions core tools. So let's run here. Now we are running our Azure Functions. See, we can see here an endpoint. An endpoint, localhost 7071/API/segments. This part is the default part from the Azure functions. So we usually use this 7071 part from the Azure functions as well. If you're in this step in the workshop, is running this endpoint is appear for you from now your screen right now, is because is fine, it's okay. So it's happening. So if we test this, for example, we are doing right now kind of a migration from the backend from the Nest.js, and now we migrated to the Azure functions. So if I use this port here, for example, the 7071, what will happen right now? So if I open here my browser in the localhost 7071, let me show you here, just a second. 7071/API/stories/random. Is happening. But look, now inside in the Azure functions, because this part belongs to the Azure functions 7071. So now we already did the migration from the local backend to the Azure functions. So good. Is working. Any doubts from here? No? Okay. So now in the part of the workshop, let's create the resources. So in this case, we are going to use the Azure CLI. So besides to use the Azure portal, let's starting to use the Azure CLI, or likewise, or using the prompt commands to create everything in the Azure portal inside the prompt command. So first, we have to create some Azure resources. So that's it. We are going to use the Azure CLI commands. For this, let's use Azure. Let me use in the background here. I think it's better this way. AZ login. So I will log in my Azure portal from the prompt command now. We are going to do this just only once. So I use my email account here. You have logged into Microsoft Azure, so you can close this window. So let's close this window. Come back to the nice. Probably you appear all the subscriptions you have. I have a lot of them because I work at Microsoft, so I have a lot of things happening here. I think in this part of the workshop, I will try to use. Let me close this transparency here. I think it's better this way. So let's create a new resource group. What is a resource group? I really like to say that resource group looks like a huge box, because inside the Azure portal, we have a lot of Azure services. We have around I think until 2 weeks ago, we have around 600 services in Azure. So for example, you have a web application for insurance, for example. So in this web application insurance, you have to use, I don't know, maybe a bot framework service. you have to use app service, you have to use Azure functions. So all these services that I'm mentioning right now is Azure services. So to organize everything that you're going to use inside the Azure portal, so you create this kind of little box called resource group. Inside this resource group, you include a lot of Azure services. So that's why we use a lot of this kind of word when starting to use Azure portal. So to create this little box for our application, so resource group, we are going to use the command AZURE create name, paths, and location. We're going to use a location forms that all of you actually, because I'm right now in the South America, but I will use the North Europe. Okay. So when you use this command, we are going to create a resource group called fun paths. Okay. Other good information. This name should be a unique name. Okay. So everybody, including right now, fun paths will be a huge problem. So that's why I think. No, actually, no. Actually, yes. Yes. Let's try to do this. Fun paths. Everyone try to do this. Fun paths. My name, resource group. This way we don't have any problems to create the same resource name. I think this is a good way. I think. Let's click on enter. Click on actually. Okay, we create. Let me try to use the notepad here. I really enjoy to copy this kind of information. Probably I have some, I don't know why, but I think that I could be using the next steps, probably copy. Okay. Next step, let's create a storage account because we can, start to use a lot of things inside these applications. Keep a little things. So in this case, let's create a new resource using the Azure line. So in this case, AZ storage account create. Name my FunPath storage. In this case, let me include FunPaths Glaucia storage. I think this is a good name. I think dash resource group. In this case, I create as FunPaths resource group. Let me include here. Just keep this information because probably I should use again storage account name. Nice. And then dash kind storage. Okay, so again, AZ storage account. This is the service name. Create a name. So I want to create a new storage account with the name FunPaths Glaucia storage using my resource group. So I'm including this service inside my box called FunPaths Glaucia resource group, kind of storage v2. So I'm using the version 2 from the storage. So let's click on on the button enter here. Probably can take a while. Depends the internet connections or local machine. Numbers in our cases, letter only. Okay, so in this case, I have to change a little things here. Okay. Nice. Any questions from here? Wow, it was pretty fast. So we have a lot of good informations here. Let me see here. So we are user access tier hot, blob restore status as null, enable HTTPS traffic only true, file queue. Okay, so already created a blob. Storage points here. Probably we use that later. Probably. Okay, we are using the tier standard. Okay, nice. Now let's create another service. Call it function app. So in this case, let's use the easy function app create name. Let me create a now I have to create a unique function name. Probably I use pets Glaucia. I think it's a good name. Group. My resource group is here. The consumption. Then location. In this case, let's use North Europe. Azure have around 40 or 45 servers around the world. So this is the servers. North Europe -- storage account. In my case, I use the name pets Glaucia. Okay, let's see what's happening here. So here I'm creating a function app with the name pets Glaucia API. Actually should include an API. So good practice to include as API. Let me include here because probably I can. Nice. So here in this tab, I'm creating a function app called pets-glaucia-API. Inside in my little box, call it pets Glaucia resource group. With so this function app I'm creating in the server North Europe location. Sorry. And using the storage account called pets Glaucia. So I think this will work. So let's try. Let's put the button enter here. As I mentioned before, Azure Functions have two different versions. They have the version 2 and the version 3. If you want to use, for example, the version 2, you have to use the flag -- functions -- version 2. If you want to use a different version, you have to use a different flag, for example. So let's wait a little bit more. So let's see here. This is just only a warning, but if you want to avoid this kind of information in your screen, you can use that flag -- functions -- version -2. So we create a function app in the Azure portal. We have a lot of important informations here. So this is our, look, this is our API inside the Azure websites.net. So this is our host name, which is using the Azure storage account inside the Azure Functions app. Interesting. So now let's deploy all this information right now. So in this case, let's use the command az lab config app settings set -name. In this case, we are going to use our function app name. So I keep it here. In this case is Glaucia API --resource group. So in this case, I do have my resource group keep it here. And that's the settings. So in this case, we are going to use SCM do build during deployment, correct? Deployment equals CSM do build during deployment equals to interesting. This comment here, the CSM do build during deployment equals true, is setting will enable a build step for zip deployments, which means that translate in the Node.js applications that we are using a kind of npm install being called on the server directly. So that's why we are using this kind of comment here. So let's the enter button here. Oh, sure, because I'm using 3 T's here. Settings. There's settings. Nice. I think we just, using this comment, we just lose 30 seconds, I think. So we already deployed our function app. So now, So let's build our app. So to do this, let's use the command npm run build. Nice. And then let's use another command called function map publish. So let's publish our Azure Functions API. So in this case, we have to return to the function app name. In this case, in my case here, I'm going to use the funcpats-loss-API and nosy. From Azure function app publish funcpats-loss-API nosy. So now we are going to publish our API to the Azure. Yeah, because I'm use the version 3 probably, but use the forms. Probably your local machines can take a little while due to the internet connection or even the local machine memory probably. But this is a good moment to take some good questions about everything that we are doing right now here. So if you have any questions, you can send right now because probably will take a little while right now. Okay. Let's wait a little bit more. Yeah. Good question. Let me ignore. So let's try again. So people, please go to the .func because actually we are going to publish the whole application to the Azure. So this folder we have a lot of things happening here, so we don't need it. So try to include this folder in the func ignore. So we'll be very fast right now. So let's try again. After finishing this step 2, we have a break time, probably 10 minutes. What do you think, Johan? And then it's close to 11. Here.
You okay? Continue for that.
How many?
30 minutes left for this. We have some technical issues before, so the time that was
It's good. Good. So probably I think maybe we can finish before 2 hours. I think.
If you feel confident doing so, please do.
Okay. Publish our something very interesting here. I don't know how to view Windows terminal. And also I have a little step. So later here and Linux all over. Good. After this workshop, I can share all of the figure to try to use it that way. We include some stuff here. Maybe, but it's a program songs. don't know. Yeah, let's look at the location is easy. Uploading great Apache for directory. Line hand when it completes.
I think we already had this issue before. Basically, I think it's because the previous deployment was stuck the one with the Node modules. And to be honest, sometimes it's but so that in workshop sometimes that issues. The best way we try to fix it is create. Yeah, only the app you don't.
Let me see the version portal here. Because you know.
Sometimes you can just retry publishing and at some point it will work. I think it's the Illinois is busy and it needs to hit some mail. You can just republish.
I have to delete this phone path Glaucia API, right?
Yes, but if you try to recreate one, try to create one with a different name.
Okay. Okay. So, okay.
just try to deploy again. If it goes with the same error, let's try to create a new function app. But maybe if we're lucky, it can work.
You mean try to execute again this?
Yes.
Again with
yes.
the same name, the FunPath Glaucia API.
Yes, if you just like the same publish method. Just retry. Sometimes it gets stuck the first time, but work the second one. But if you get the same error as before, you can just retry creating the function app entirely.
So, okay, I got it. But should I use this command again, or I have to create a new function app?
You can try with the same one with this one, yes.
Okay, I will try to execute this command, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Because if have a new problem here, I can delete it in the Azure portal and create a new function app name with the same name. It's not a problem.
I think we tried that already, but if you create it with the same name, the builder that will be used will be exactly the same, and you might get also the same error. That's why I'm suggesting to use a different name.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's better to create a new function app name. What do you think? I think
it's still stuck at this point. It should be very fast, so you should better try with a new function app.
You need a function app in the this. Wait. Let's do this. Now, yeah, it's a different. Then okay. Let me create a new function app name. Probably will actually we'll try to delete the restriction. Now again, that is deploying our Azure. Again, caching the new modules inside in the yes, perfect. Nice. So let's try to use that. Again. Is results. deployment. Easy, fonctionnel, quick, set/name, compact /cloud-API. Nitro. Settings, SCM, then we use app settings. Here. Deploy class. Now let's see the and finally this and I can see all the resource created in the resource group. Program here. The resource size is uploading. Some questions. Take a little while. Let's wait a little bit more. Again, uploading. There is a deployment recording in progress. Please try again when it completes. Johan?
Yes, I'm here.
I create a new function app, but it's appear again the message there is a deployment recording in progress. Please try again when it completes.
To be honest, I know we had this issue before, but this time if you have it with a new function, usually it's, as I said, it's a matter of having a timeout with the remote builder. I don't think we can make it work in the remaining time. I think we have 10 minutes left in this recording. Hopefully it goes better for our people following the workshop here. So they can have the API deployed. Maybe we can finish in there.
Okay.
It's the end of the step 2 anyway. And if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask on Slack or on Twitter after the conference has ended.
Okay. So we will finish here.
If you're okay with that, we can conclude here.
Okay. Okay. For me, that's fine.
Okay.